What's up, everybody? Welcome in, man. We're gonna be reacting to this Day by Daylight community stream that the devs dropped, I think yesterday or a couple days before, or whatever the case may be. I have been seeing a lot of stuff. It has been going on my timeline about this, whether it's from various YouTubers like True Talent, Scott John, or any of the above talking about this. Um, so I just want to look at it and examine it for myself. I'm not gonna make a complete breakdown of everything that they mentioned. The most important things that they are going over, pretty much, or the face camping reduction, the anti-tunneling reduction, and slugging reduction. So pretty much everything that has to do with killers are the most important thing coming out of the stream that everyone are talking about. And I like to play this because this is giving us a little substance of what the devs are thinking with this, right?
And here we have a beautiful video of Meg watching Claudette's demise and more informed decisions about the state of the game, right? Like in terms of macro, what's going on, where you should be, what you should be doing.
Really upset that this is already really upset.
We're putting you on the next PTB so you guys can test it and give us some insight as to how it feels and what it's like.
And I'll jump in there just because, thank you. That's the point I was going to say. You'll probably get sick of me saying it. We really are testing these features in the next PTB. Don't like start being really upset that this is already in the game and I hate it. What we want to do is test it. We want to get your feedback with hands-on, not just based on the information. Try it out. Let us know how it feels if you're a killer, how it feels if you're a survivor, and then we'll go from there and see what we're gonna do. And that's the case for each of the things that we're gonna present today.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a very important fact to bring up when discussing this whole community stream, is that this is not in the final version of the game. It's going to be come to the PTB like that other patch that they dropped not too long ago in August, the patch where survivors can get up if they have their resolve meter. This is what he was talking about in this little video clip here. I'll play it after the fact, but everything discussing here will be in the PTB that's upcoming, I think, in November. So let's go to what they have to say.
We as developers and myself as a player, we want the game to last long. So to make sure that that happens and that the game can keep going as long as it can, we have to address the issues that people have or the players have within the game. So,
all right, I want to address this right here. So he said, why are we looking into this? Why is this whole thing coming up? Face camping, slugging, and tunneling have been a major factor into players uninstalling the game. Now, I wouldn't say that's a big reason that most people are playing the game. Most people playing the game are probably new coming to the game, expecting a casual experience, right? And most of this stuff is really negates itself because some players have the ability, the majority of players have the ability to abandon a match whenever they are slugged by a killer. It happened to me multiple times. Now, with the slugging thing, killers have to do it based on the skill level of the survivors, man. It's just written at this point. We know what the game is. We know what it's capable of. We know what it's capable of with the right survivors, especially if it's a survivor friends matchup. Guys, teams who can knock out generators, run a killer, and stay on comms for as long as they are. It's tough for a killer to outplay that without most of the stuff you have to do. So sometimes you have to slug. Sometimes you have to tunnel, per se, but it's not really tunneling. Let's say if I hook someone and then the person that gets off the hook blocks my way, I'm going to tell you from a personal experience. You block me, I'm coming after you, period, point blank, because you're stopping me from getting a kill. That's what you're supposed to do as a protection hit, but ain't nothing in the rule book said I can't come back after you. I'm going to make you pay for what you did. You shouldn't be blocking my way because you have the anti-tunnel thing to where you can get extra speed boost once I hit you, pretty much like Bill's old part borrowed time, like borrowed time used to operate. If you play DBD back in the day, if you use borrowed time, Bill gets you off the hook. The person he gets off the hook has borrowed time. So if a killer were to tunnel them, that's what tunnel was back in the day. The killer to tunnel that same survivor that was already on the hook and hit them, they would have borrowed time, giving them extra time to avoid the killer. So if you use your borrowed time per se on me while blocking me from trying to get a different survivor and putting yourself in ways harm, I'm gonna wait your time around. Then I'm gonna get you. Period. Point blank. That's just how I do it. Period. Point blank. But I don't really. I don't think this is super big as the way they trying to make it out to fit this stream. To be honest, and the devs have enough to comply with when it comes to this whole community. They got their hands full with the whole community because you can't please everybody. But so far, it looks like most of these changes are killer related. Let's just get into it.
Face camping, slugging, and tunneling are three of the issues that we have to address. Oh, right, I have the
You got
clicker.
the clicker.
Yeah, I forgot. That's so cool. Okay, so let me start by saying or explaining what face camping is. So usually, it's described as the killer staying in very close proximity to a hooked survivor. And over here, you can see there's a nice little picture where it shows you what face camping is, what proxy camping is, and what patrolling is. So when you're very close to the hook, that's usually face camping. When you're like mid length away from the hook, that's proxy camping. You're just making sure the survivor's still there. And when you're a little bit further, you're patrolling. You're looking from afar, seeing no one's going for the save. Okay, so that's basically what the different steps or stages of camping are. Because this is a PowerPoint presentation, I figured it would be very nice to have some key data points. So I went and looked at the data because I think sharing data is always useful. So overall, we have seen that since the start of 2025, face camping, so the closest proximity to the hook, has not really had any major shift. It's been pretty steady, which is kind of a weird thing to talk about, but that's the data. Patrolling, which is when you're further than 20 meters away, has increased a little bit. So killers tend to stay closer to the hook by about 3 seconds as opposed to, before 2025. And surprisingly, which is something that I think is fascinating because it could imply that survivors are learning to not rush on hooks, which is great. Survivors take more time to go for rescues. So you will leave your teammate on the hook for a little longer because you're going to finish that gen. And that's usually a good thing. So yeah, good job. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about for key data points is when the resolve bar fills, so that's the bar that fills up when you're being camped, there's a 10% increase in escape rates. So the face camping mechanic or reduction that we implemented, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, actually has an impact on how the matches go. So here is a breakdown by MMR. So you can see that low MMR killers tend to face camp more than mid or high MMR killers. And in terms of maps, Raccoon City Police Department West Wing is the highest percentage for face camping, and Wretched Shop is the lowest. And I put some stars beside those because while that's what the data says, we would have to do a deep dive as to why that is, because we could argue that RCPD is very narrow. It's got not a lot of room, so you spend more time near hooks without really wanting to. But I think it's interesting to share that these are the highest and lowest as to why.
All right, now with these two maps in specific, Wretched Shop, their hoods are so spread apart. There are a couple hoods that are by generators, but not that often. You have that 1-2 generator set up outside of one in main that will never change, right? And then there's one outside of main on the left side. And then there's a hook on the left side of that generator, right? So I mean, it's all about setups in most of these maps. Just like the RPD station, the generators, there are 2 generators in the lobby where the main hook is in the middle of the map. So there's a generator upstairs, and then you go right downstairs, generator right downstairs. So you can't. I wouldn't really say patrolling is very prevalent in this map. It's just that everything, like he said, is close in the RPD station. Literally, most of the hoods are next to the majority of the generators. So I can see why that map is the least or the most patrolled or whatever. That's because everything is super tight knit and close. Literally, it's hoods right on top of generators in that map. And for Wretched Shop, everything is spread out, so that's why it's the lowest out of all of them.
I don't know, maybe you can tell me. So what are the goals with the face camping updates in the upcoming PTB? The first is to bridge the gap between solo players and Survivor with friends, and it'll all make sense in just a second. And the other one is to make the anti-face camp mechanic fair for both sides. So you may, as killer, have experienced the meter filling up too soon after you've hooked someone, or you've hooked someone in the basement and you hook another survivor, and the first one's filling up their meter. There's a lot of scenarios where it could feel a little oppressive. So what's next? In the upcoming PTB, you'll be able to test and hopefully give us a lot of feedback. The resolve bar, when being camped, will be visible to all survivors. So that means if I'm being camped and Diego is doing a gen on the other side of the map, he will see the resolve bar filling on the HUD. So he'll be able to tell, one, that I'm being camped, but also what the progress is on that camp meter. The next thing is the meter will fill up faster based on how long the killer stays within proximity of the hook. So this is really cool because, well, first, we've also decreased the rate at which it fills baseline, so the killer's not penalized for, like, walking by or anything like that. It's really just if you spend a lot of time near the hook, it will fill up much faster, up to 200% of the life value, which is 10 charges per second. And then the last thing we did as well is we increased the range of the anti-face camp radius to 20 meters. So it's a little bit more punishing in a way if you decide to stick within 20 meters with a hatchet pulled out or other scenarios. Oh, right, and there's one last thing I forgot. So initially, when you hook a survivor, there's a 7-second grace period before the meter starts filling up. But that wouldn't only apply to when you hook that specific survivor. So in my example, where you hook a second survivor in the basement, that first survivor that you hooked will still be filling up that meter. Now, with the upcoming PTB, if you hook a second survivor, it will put the grace period on all hooked survivors within the area that you're in. So you won't be penalized for doing that. And here we have a beautiful video of Meg watching.
All right, now I'm kind of confused by that. So let's say I knock this Meg here, right? I put her in the basement, and then I drop Claudette, which he's about to do on this stream, and I bring her to the basement. Would Meg have a resolve bar because I'm in close proximity to the basement hood? But if I'm transporting Claudette, so why would her resolve meter be like going up? That's my only question there. I don't see how that would benefit the killer anyway. That is benefit survivor to me.
Watching Claudette's demise, and I zoomed in on. Oh, maybe we want. Yeah, thank you. I zoomed in on the HUD so that we can see the resolve bar filling, and so that's the first thing you'll notice is that it's visible. But the second thing you'll notice is that as the trapper just sticks around there, it'll fill up faster and faster, which is what we were saying. Well, what I was just saying about it filling up faster based on how long you stayed near the hook. And hopefully, with the...
And for those that don't know, the resolve meter is the meter underneath the character's name. It pops up when you get hooked in your second state and the killer is patrolling you. I think it triggers towards the end game now, as opposed to before the exit gates are operative. So it's like the orange meter underneath everything.
The visible resolve bar, you'll see, again, hopefully, teammates make more informed decisions about the state of the game, right? Like in terms of macro, what's going on, where you should be, what you should be doing in the moment to moment. I think it'll be really helpful, but again, you guys can test it out and get.
Now, my problem with this is, man, in the wrong hands as a team, the teams can just see this, right? And they can just triple threat generators, just run through them because they can see the bar now. They don't have to. They know where the killer is based on his bar. So all they have to do is not go for a save on the survivor, and they can just keep going through generators, keep going through them. They don't have to necessarily go and make the save because the survivor can just get themselves off the hook, right? And you already have smart enough teams when you play as killer going against them to where they just hammer through generators like it's nothing. So I think this is just doing more incentivize more survivors just to go after generators, even if it's, as you can see down here, it's one generator remaining. What's to stop the survivor from just going on a generator, opening up another exit gate when this person can automatically get themselves off the hook anyway? So what's the point of them saving themselves? What is them? What's the point of the survivor? Let's say this man, for instance. What's the point of her fully health, putting herself in harm's way to go unhook Claudette there if the killer's already there? And then she knows if it's a human player that Claudette can get herself off the hook. Me as a survivor, it don't make sense for me to go over there and put myself in harm and go get her off the hook. Her resolve bar helps her anyway. I don't need to help her. I can just go straight for the exit gate and then take a protection hit, and we all get out.
Get feedback on it, because that's the whole point. We're putting it on the next PTB so you guys can test it and give us some insight as to how it feels and what it's like.
And I'll jump in there. Just
We're putting it on the next PTB so you guys can test it and give us some insight as to So, key data points. Throughout 2025, we have seen a slight drop in tunneling. These
I don't see most of this stuff making it to the main game, bro. I just don't. I think if this stuff makes it to the main game, you're gonna shred through Killer, bro. It's gonna be tough playing Killer when the survivors can do so much that they can do, bro. It's gonna be crazy.
percentages are the average, or sorry, yes, 7. I mean, the map is, this is the, which is a 4% drop. It's pretty important. And then if we look at the breakdown by MMR, we see the opposite of what we saw with camping. So low MMR killers tend to tunnel less than high MMR killers, which is also interesting. And, we could extrapolate as to why. One hypothesis is that high MMR survivors are just more efficient. So therefore, tunneling feels like the most efficient way to, combat their efficiency. But that's another thing that you guys can, theory craft on and help us understand.
I know for me, for instance, when I play Killer and I'm going up against a super high tier survivor, I'll give them probably maybe 1, maybe 3 chases. And if I can't get them down within that span, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to go after the weaker survivors, get them all down, and then hopefully the high tier survivor puts himself in a vulnerable position for me to get them. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to me just wasting my time chasing him for 5 gens like they want. That's just what I do.
And then in terms of maps, the Treatment Theater has the highest percentage of tunneling, and Gas Heaven has the lowest. And same thing as with camping. Why, we would have to do a deep dive and try to understand exactly why this is the case. But I thought it was interesting that Treatment Theater, I definitely didn't expect that one to be number 1, but and I think it's the next slide or the one after that. But we want to ensure the player agency is retained, and we want to put the onus on the survivor. So,
good use of the word onus.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel smart. I feel smart. So the key learnings from the PTB. The first one is that the players found the proposed solution too intrusive, and to refresh everyone's memory, on the PTB, the last PTB that we had the unhooked protections for survivors, we had the killer penalties if you did tunnel, we had the killer bonuses, and all of these things together felt like it was a little too much, which is a very fair point. And I think that the last PTB gave us some really good insight as to what worked and what didn't. So I want to say thank you for all the feedback that you guys gave, because it really helped us. It helped inform our next steps for this feature. Topic in the previous PTB is the penalties. So there's no more penalties. We're good? Okay.
We're good.
I thought there was something else. Okay.
I'll jump in if I need to, but you're doing great.
Good. So unhooked protections. Most of it is the same, but there are some differences with what was on the last PTB. So you still get 10% haste. You still get the endurance status effect, which means that if you get hit, you'll go into deep wound instead of going down. There's the new status effect elusive, which means that you cannot be revealed. You will leave no pools of blood, no scratch marks, and you make no grunts of pain. One thing that we added as well is that you will make no sounds, so you won't be coughing or puking or stuff like that, because some killers had very clever ways of bypassing the system in the previous PTB. You still do not accumulate AFK points, so AFK crows will not come into play if you are under the unhook protections. You will still see the killer's aura within 32 meters, and these are still lost when performing a conspicuous action or when being healed a full health state. And I think it's also important to remind people that when it's in endgame, these bonuses are mostly turned off. The only ones that are on are the 10% haste and endurance that are granted for 10 seconds, which is what it is currently on live. So here we have a video of the ones that are on.
Now let's go through this. This hammer my point home here. So with the unhook protections, right? So why do me as a survivor, like I said earlier, will put myself in harm's way to unhook somebody else when they got the ability to unhook themselves and they still have the same protections as they were if I were to unhook them? So what's the point? What's the incentive for me unhooking somebody? Now I get where they going with this whole community stream. They want the casual player, like new players, to come here and enjoy the game and not be immediately killed at the game and ruin their playtime or ruin their experience playing the game. That's just what this whole update is about. I can see that based on everything they're presenting in this presentation. So you still get the 10% haste. You still get endurance. Now you have elusive, so you have no aura, no pools of blood, no scratch marks, no grunts of pain. So what they was going to introduce in the PTB in August is pretty much coming back to the PTB now. This time you're making no coughing, no puking. So that's for killers like the plague, right? No AFK points. So if you just stand there idle until your protection wanes and just stand there out of the, let's say, okay, you get hit, you have endurance, you hide, you elude the killer, no scratch marks, right? No grunts of pain, so you have all that protection. You elude the killer and you just stand at the corner of the map all day. No AFK birds, hinders your position, gives your position away. You see the killer's aura from 32 meters away. Is lost when performing a conspicuous action or being healed at full health state. And when in endgame, only 10% haste and endurance are granted for 10 seconds. This is all cool for casual people and new people trying to join the game. But this shit put in the wrong hands with experienced players, it writes the jokes right themselves. Respectfully. Now, there's going to be a lot of testing in the PTB for this, but I doubt this make it to the full game. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this make it to the full game, to be honest. Because they want more and more people to continue to play this game. And more new people to come and play this game. Word to mouth. Friends on friends. That's why the whole onus, as he said, were solo and survivor friends. So this is a big emphasis on survivor and playing with your survivor friends for sure.
On are the 10% haste and endurance for Jake, which is one of the key differences that we have compared to the last PTB, which is that the survivor no longer loses collision with unhook protections. So, key differences. We have removed the new collision from unhook protections, and we've decreased the killer aura reveal to 10 seconds. So it doesn't last the entire duration of the unhook protections. And you might ask why? Well, we saw in the previous PTB that survivors were weaponizing both of these effects to go for aggressive plays, as opposed to trying to survive, which is the intended goal of the unhook protections, is to put you in a spot where you can make better decisions to survive. What we saw was that killers who were actively trying to not tunnel were being punished by these things. Right, moving on. Killer bonuses. You need to put you in the unhook protections, and you might ask, which is great. What you noticed as well is that Meg was trying to, stop the killer from go after Jake, which is one of the key differences that we have compared to the last PTB, which is that the survivor no longer loses collision with unhook protections. So, key differences. We have removed the new collision plays, as opposed to trying to survive, which is the intended goal of the unhook protections, is to put you in a spot where you can make better decisions to survive. Right, moving on. Killer bonuses. So upon a unique hook, which is hooking a different survivor from the last. So I got hooked, and then Diego gets hooked.
Oh,
That's a
damn.
unique bonus. Sorry.
I
Um,
tried.
so the first one is that you will gain Bloodlust for 15 seconds. And the second is that you gain a stackable blood point multiplier on your match score. And the last thing that we did different from the previous BTB is that we have buffed a series of score events related to hooks. So now when you, for example, when you get a first hook on a survivor, you get 750 blood points instead of, I think it was 200. It was very low. Maybe 500. I'm not sure. I should have put it. Anyway, I forgot. So here's a video of the bonuses in action. I cut the previous part before that moment because I was being looped by the Megbot for so long and I was so embarrassed. So I just cut to the point where I downed her. So as you can see here, I hook her. I have the Bloodlust bonus, so I'm moving slightly faster. And you can see the golden marker on the hook counter, which I don't know about you, but when I play with, I'm a survivor main, but when I play with Deja Vu and I have that yellow bar, it feels really nice. So having that golden marker right there feels just as good.
That's good UX.
That's good. Yeah, that's as a segue. Yeah, this is something we have been working together.
Honestly, man, I can respect it, but I don't really care about that. The bloodlust on hooking a different survivor. I mean, it's cool, right? But survivors still can outplay you in a sense, bro.
This is why it's because with internal testing, we found that if you had Bloodlust and you would just enter a chase, you could just continue building it up to, tier 2 and tier 3, and that felt quite oppressive in certain scenarios. And of course, I will remind everyone, this is to test on the next BTB. So if you test it with the current iteration where it's tier 1 Bloodlust and you have feedback on that, please give that feedback. It's really, really crucial for us to develop this feature. I'm really glad because I'm like, before I was like, there's a lot of slides, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and I was very worried. So the fact that people are locked in.
This is my dream come true, Jeff. You're making.
We have removed the bonus generated damage on the next kick. I'm really glad because I'm like, before I was like, there's a lot of slides, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and I was very worried. So the fact that people are locked in.
This is my dream come true, Jeff. You're making my dreams
great.
Come true right now.
Cool. So key differences. Like I mentioned, we swapped the haste bonus for Bloodlust. We have removed the bonus generated damage on the next kick, and we removed the aura reveal, also dubbed base kit barbecue. And I want to really quickly touch upon each of these. So the reason why we switched haste to Bloodlust is specifically because haste doesn't have a limit to how it stacks with killer powers. So that means that if you, for example, played the Spirit and you got haste from a uni hook, that would stack with the haste that you got from your power, which basically makes a strong killer even stronger. And that's not usually what we like. We don't want to make the gap between weaker killers and stronger killers wider. We want to try to make it smaller. So using Bloodlust allows us to do that because, again, if you use your power, you will not get the full benefit, unlike someone like Trapper, for example, not likely to use his traps for mobility, so he'll probably get the full benefit from this bonus. And then the next two goes back to what I was saying, where a lot of players felt that it would hold their hands into how they played the game, and it felt very cookie cutter. Like there was one right way to play: is you would get a uni hook, you would go to a gen, you would kick that gen, then you would see the aura, and you would go to there, and you would just rinse and repeat this whole sequence over and over again. And one of the things that we came to realize after the last BTB is that goes against some of our core pillars. One of our core pillar is chaos, and not chaos in the sense that everything is all over the place, but things are unpredictable, right? The player has, and the second one is player agency. So the player has control in how they want to play the game and how they want to approach each different scenario. And I think that's really important, and the unpredictable chaos comes from those player decisions. And so if we put a feature in that removes that, then we are not true to our core pillars. And that's usually a no-go for things in game development. So, all right.
I think the most important thing he said there, he said it himself. Let's go back to it.
And you got haste from a uni hook, that would stack with the haste that you got from your power, which basically makes a strong killer even stronger. And that's not usually what we like. We don't want to make the gap between weaker killers and stronger killers wider. We want to try to make it smaller.
Okay. He just told you he don't want to make strong killers stronger. So that's why the change is implemented. So killers like, for example, Spirit, who is a very tough killer to go against, just get penalized from this bloodlust thing pretty much, because bloodlust, when a killer gains bloodlust and the sight is broken from survivor to killer, the bloodlust just resets. So it does nothing for them. So it just penalizing the killer for real, for instance. And like he said, only killer that's gonna really benefit from it is, there's gonna be one of the killers that benefit from it is the trapper, because he don't use his traps to get his power. There are instances where you can place a trap down and get haste, but not many trappers do that, because you don't just place any trap anywhere and to get haste. Like, it don't work that way. Your traps got to be systematically planted throughout the map in order to catch survivors and corner them off and veer them into your trap. So this change just penalized characters killers for the most part. Let's get on to the slugging, and then we're gonna get out of here.
So using blood. All right, what is slugging or whatever? Anyway, that's what happens. So if we look at the comparison between January and now, we do see that survivors spend less time in the dying state. So this is 35 seconds in January, and then it went down to 34 seconds in June, and now it's down to 30 seconds. And then the other thing that's really interesting is that in January, there was about 4% of matches that would have bleed outs in them. So that's when you would fully die from being slugged, when your bleed out meter would just empty. And that's down to 2%. And it has been consistent with the release of the abandoned feature. So since the abandoned feature, we've seen a pretty significant drop in the time spent, the bleed out occurrence for survivors. And now this is really interesting as well, is the map.
He said it himself there. Like, slugging in the game now is, it ain't you. It's a very valuable strat for killers. Very valuable strat. So the metrics and the stats that they're using, it's down from a humongous percent, because he said it himself, the abandoned feature. Once they introduce that feature, survivors just get out of matches like that. Especially if survivors that try to loop a killer and they get outplayed and they get salty, they leave the match, abandon. Then that causes everybody else to abandon. If you I've had it happen to me plenty of times, and I've just probably started the match. If I get a quick 4 down, because the survivors I literally played a match on Bam Preschool. Well, not Bam, the Silent Hill map, right? And literally all the survivors were in the same general area after I hooked a survivor. And then I end up getting them all down. Then they all abandoned. So it's like, of course the number's going to be down when the abandoned feature is there. Slugging isn't even a thing when it comes to holding the game hostage, because everybody abandoned. So slugging at this point shouldn't even be a metric, bruh.
With the highest time spent slugged is the game. I have tried to, while crawling, so you could move while recovering, which allowed you to reposition while also getting ready to be picked up, and it was very strong.
Honestly, I don't know how they how did they not know that was going to be one of the strongest things. It clearly negated the abandon factor. Like, survivors don't have to abandon when they can just crawl away and get themselves up at the same time. So I don't know how they didn't figure that out. We went through that in the patch when it dropped.
And players were also faced with lose-lose scenarios, because with the tunneling reduction feature and the penalties that were there, you couldn't get someone out because they were the last one that you hooked, but you also couldn't slug them because they could just pick themselves up. So that's a bit of an oversight on our part. But now this time, that is not the case. So again, test it out and give us your feedback.
I will say,
Yes.
Jeff didn't do the palette density stuff, so he's not going to speak to the palette density stuff.
Oh yeah, no.
People are
Sorry, not me. Away. So pick yourself up, back up the moment you're down.
Yeah, man. Most of these changes just don't do nothing but really benefit Survivor for the majority of them. The resolve bar on the hoods, the resolve bar on crawling, the same thing. They're just introducing some of the same metrics that they introduced in the PTB in August. Some of the same changes. Crawling speed is increased to 1.5 meters. Right. Once a survivor can recover on their own for the rest of the trial, they must fully recover each time. It feels 33% faster for each additional survivor. So, yeah, I mean, it's hammering the killer a tremendous amount. Let's see what else he got.
And then the last part is the crawling speed of a survivor will increase over time. How's everyone's day going?
Yeah, well,
How are you feeling?
They liked your little meme thing. Whatever that was.
That was my range. So you can see there's a very big difference between only slugging a survivor versus multiple survivors. And I think she's just about to get there. There we go. She just finally got the ability to pick herself back up. And I'm sorry I forgot to put the perk icon for this one, but the only perk update for this will be tenacity. And for all the perk and add-on changes, we'll point you to the patch notes whenever they're out sometime in the next few weeks.
All right, man. That's gonna do it for the video, man. The changes coming to the PTB, like you said in the beginning of the video, they are not final. They are not in the official game. They will be tested in the PTB, so people give their thoughts when the PTB drops. I assume sometime next week. This stuff, my quick synopsis, most of this stuff won't make it to the game because most of it really just don't make any sense. It's all Survivor sided. In my sense, if I'm playing Survivor, I don't have no incentive to go take no protection hit to the end of the game. All I gotta do is stay on generators and make sure we all complete them and get it out of the match. Because if one of us get hooked, we can get ourselves off the hook. Because we can see the visual resolve bar if the killer is near. So if there's no resolve bar, we know the killer is not near. So then we can go make a save. So it's just the knowledge based thing. And like I say, I know what they're trying to accomplish here. They're trying to accomplish by having new and casual people join the game and not quit the game. That's their whole basis for this whole thing, and it's clearly based around survivors. So people who are going to be playing Survivor Friends that are new and they want to get that word of mouth back to the game and get more people keep playing this game. That's what this change is pretty much about. And they don't want them to run into no top tier killer that just ruin your experience, because we have all had experiences where we got either killed at the game and 4 generators are there, or one of us get hooked, then we are in a 2-hook state, then there's 2 people with 2-hook states and everybody else has been hooked once, and then there's 3 gens left. So it's like they don't want that experience there. So I see why they put these changes in here. Will all these changes be there? No, a handful of them will be, just so they can get the player base, the casuals in here and get more people playing the game. So that's my thoughts on the matter, man. They got their hands full with the community as always, so we know it's going to be a whole lot of backlash from this stuff. All we got to do is wait until the PTB and see what happens, bro. That's my thoughts, man. I'll see you guys in the next video. I will be dropping more DBD content in the coming days, maybe weeks, but I'll see you guys, man. Peace out.